if we're looking at the last 5, 7, 10 years, tops maybe 10 years, but I would say 8 years, 7 years. 2015, when we started For the Future, I and my team, we started very, very, as I usually, say, pragmatic. But we started with a brand. There was no brand. We started with a logotype, and we created the first digital logo, the first flat logo, because we identified that our clients and target groups and people that want to view the car / the brand, they will do it through a digital media, phone, iPad, whatever, right? So we wanted that logo to be flat, and you know how many companies follow that. But if you look at it, the FF logo was the absolutely first and was spearheading that understanding, the digital understanding. The second thing is, why do we design things? It's an exercise in styling. Do we dress the hunchback? Or do we do a design that answers certain questions or needs and purposes, right? So the UX is the user experience. That's the first. The user interface is how do we interact with that, right? And it comes down if we have screen or voice control, or how we do those graphics on a screen, plainly, right? But what are we looking at? We're looking at an interior. And that is why I think that today is much more interesting than it was 10 years ago with electrification and the technology we have, because we can change the layout. And you see companies that done that. For the Future, we were saying there was the first car in its class to offer a true or genuine first-class experience. And we said no bad seat in the car. That means that we were not doing that for the driver. We're doing it for the 4, 5 other places where you can sit in that car. And it was very democratic. Now, we also said, when I sit in the co-pilot's spot, what do I want to do? Do I want to see a part of an IP in leather with some aluminium bling and saying airbag? I'm completely uninterested in that. I only have to look at the road and see, if it's a nice vista or whatever. I want maybe to have entertainment. So we put the screen there. And because we wanted that screen and we still wanted to be able to look throughout from the windshield, we had to change the architecture and how the airbag bounces back on. Usually it's the windshield, but we actually had it on the screen, so we put it much lower. And then we said, we don't have a glove compartment. Where do we have that storage? And so on and so forth. We also did a spa. I have to say, like, it's a sensational ambience where we combine sound, light, fragrance, massage, everything that you have in the car to do a true holistic experience, together with our at that time zero gravity seats, right? And when I then continued, I went to GAC. We really had this inside out philosophy that we started then. And we showed it to our first concept car coming from LA, the Entrance, where we speak a lot about human-centric values and inside out, truly. But going back, the core of a human experience, whatever it is, to interact with a machine, right, is how do we communicate and what do I want to have out of it? And the design needs to respond to that. Otherwise, it's not purposeful. It has, it's a nice object, but does it do anything for me? And then we have the exterior, where we obviously have to package everything. And at that time, I always said that UX UI is like the gemstone, like the diamond in the ring. And what holds that gemstone is the ring, right? It's the ring. That's the interior of a car. And the exterior is just a Tiffany box, right? It has to come in a nice package, but that's what it is. So it's so essential for everyone to understand why we are designing things and why UX UI is important. And it's not only screens, right? It has a content. It has a content that is not sharing information or you're entering information, since we are using mostly screens, but that will change in the future. But it also gives a visual value to the interior, because if you have a TV in a room, that all the interiors and colors and everything will actually be secondary when you look at that screen. And what is on that screen or that television is highly affecting the look of that room, right? Because you look at that screen, does it apply the same colors? Is it in unison with some graphics or the forum language on the physical things in a car interior, and so on and so forth. So it's very interlinked, everything. And I think that people may not start there. The UX UI is the absolutely starting point, right? But it's also the end point, because that is what you end up interacting with the car. And the voyage, the trip between those, should be seamless. It should be natural. You should not even think about it, right? Because then you can really focus on what is important, driving the car, as long as we drive our cars ourselves, and everything else. So when we have a bad interface on a product, it's like speaking with a person you don't speak the same language, or you don't share the same opinions or whatever, right? And that's why we have to do this smart and clever, seamless. And it has much more value on the physical design that you may think on the first glance. So my strong recommendation, think of why we're doing this. And when you start to think about, is this the best way? Is a steering wheel the best way how to steer a car? If you start to think about that, you may come up with another design solution. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that if you start to question everything, then you will see we could do it in this way, because that would be better. If you're not thinking about it, you're just going to design it, and then you're going to style it, and then you're going to come up with a shape which you don't think, why? I mean, we do square steering wheels. Why do we do square steering wheels? We did a square steering wheel in the FF91 at that time because we wanted to look over the steering wheel. So of course having a round one, but then we could say, if this would be a commercial vehicle, a truck you have to operate a lot, maybe much better to have a completely circular, or an off-road vehicle, maybe much better to have a completely circular steering wheel, because that would be much more important for the user. So thousands of examples. Our own, let's say, this curiosity is an important mindset of mine. If you're curious and you question things, is this the best? Have it been done? Why is it done? Can we do it in a different way? But coming from the core, which is we are the users, we are the human beings. We're doing things for ourselves. So if we don't really think why we do it, then we can't think how we can do it better or in different way. So UX UI, absolutely core, and then the rest will follow.